Blog Talk Radio.
We are the UR Tennis Network. Our mission is to be the voice of tennis. We enlist a team of passionate enthusiasts to promote our sport. We strive to bring interesting perspectives on the many spins of tennis. Our goal is to provide the learners of our sport with current news and information from many angles. We seek active participation from communities interested in tennis, but tennis is not interested in them. We are expanding our outreach. Tennis is a true lifetime sport that needs to be talked about, and the UR Tennis Network pledges to pursue this idea relentlessly.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Parenting Aces radio show on Blog Talk Radio's UR Tennis Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and what a way to end 2013 with today's show. We are going to be discussing the newest changes to the college tennis format that were approved by the ITA at their convention earlier this month. And as my guest today, I am so thrilled to have on with us Mitchell Frank. Mitchell is a junior at University of Virginia, and he is a very integral part of the UVA tennis team. In fact, Mitchell clinched the first NCAA championship that UVA has ever won with a lovesick 7-5, 6-4 win over UCLA in the spring NCAA championships. And oh my gosh, what an exciting finish that was. And I know the whole team was just beside themselves with that win. But the reason I have Mitchell coming on today is because he, like a lot of other college tennis players, has been very vocal speaking out against the changes to the college tennis format. And so before I bring Mitchell on the air, I just want to give you a quick summary of what these latest changes are. And again, this was just approved earlier this month at ITA's annual meeting. It is an experimental format, and it only applies to Division I schools. So let me clarify. Division II and Division III and the junior college programs are not impacted by this change. This only applies to Division I schools, and it's an experiment that will be tried the first 6 weeks of the season through the team indoor championships, which happen in Houston. It's not for the regular dual match season, and it's not for this year's NCAA championships. Also, let me clarify that this new experimental format is used only unless both coaches agree not to use it. So the ITA has left a loophole for the coaches to say no thank you and to agree to play by the pre-existing format. So quickly, the changes are that dual matches will be 3 doubles matches followed by 6 singles matches, same as it's been. The doubles matches, however, are only going to be 1 set to 6. This is on the men's side now. 1 set to 6 as opposed to an 8-game pro set, which was the case. They will be using no ad scoring and will play a tiebreaker at 5 all. Once 2 matches are won by a single team, the remaining match stops play, and that's the clinch rule, and that's typically used now, but coaches have let that third match play out just to give the players experience, but that's no longer going to be the case. In singles, on the men's side, they will continue to play 2 out of 3 sets. However, they're going to go to no ad scoring and play a tiebreaker at 5 all. Also, there's no warm-up for the team against its opponent. So the pre-existing format was each team would come out and have a 5-minute warm-up against its opponent. Now that warm-up's being eliminated. Okay, on the girls' side, again, 3 doubles matches followed by 6 singles matches. For the doubles, the women are playing 1 set, regular scoring, and they play a tiebreaker at 6 all. The clinch policy on the women's side is also going to be in effect. On the singles matches, the women will play 2 out of 3 sets, regular scoring. but they'll play a 10-point tiebreaker instead of playing out the third set. And again, just like on the men's side, there will be no warm-up versus the opponents. So without further ado, let me bring Mitchell on the line. Mitchell, are you there?
Hey, Lisa, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for being on. Did I summarize those changes accurately?
Yeah. And the men, I think the only thing you might have left out was the men's singles is the set to 5-all, no ad. I think that was the only thing. But yeah, I mean these proposed changes are approved are obviously experimental for the national indoors, and I think that there are obviously people on both sides of the spectrum who have felt different ways about it.
Well, it's interesting to me. I was at a tournament with my son over the weekend and had the opportunity to talk to a young man who plays for University of Tennessee, and he is as outraged by these changes as anyone. And I've talked to several other current college tennis players. I've talked to several college tennis coaches. I have yet to meet somebody that's in favor of this. So maybe you can enlighten us, and maybe you have some insight on what the reasoning is for these changes. I mean, all I've heard is they're trying to shorten the matches to get more fans out there. Is that what you're hearing, and what's your thoughts?
What I'm hearing is they're looking at it as looking at a way to shorten the matches in an effort to hopefully publicize our sport more, and hopefully in the future get it on, getting it aired, getting people to watch more matches. They believe that the matches drag on too long, and that diverts people's attention away from the college tennis scene. And I think that that's kind of, along with what you said, I think that's kind of one of the major reasons that people are looking at these changes. Some have cited they feel like that the college tennis is dying, which I don't exactly agree with. I think that it's probably healthier than it ever has been in many aspects. But it's, again, it's, obviously everyone is, there are people on the other side of the spectrum who believe we need to give these a chance,
Well, as a player, and as a player who has dipped his toe pretty deeply in the professional tennis arena, how do you feel these changes are going to impact upper-level players' desire to go to college to play tennis at the collegiate level?
Well, for sure the level of college tennis is going to drop, certainly. The tough thing is that it's very tough to make a case for the professional aspect because, the ITA and NCAA is an amateur league. Their goal is not to create pros, although, many people do view college tennis as a very viable pathway to the professional ranks. Now, for someone like myself, whose goal is to play be a successful professional tennis player, this is very troublesome. As I know, many other people who desire to play professional, they look at this as a very devastating aspect to their development as a player. But again, it's very tough to use that argument just because of the fact that that's not the ITA's goal, that's not the NCAA goal. So, definitely the level of college tennis will drop. Those players who are on the fence between college and professional will definitely 100% go pro. There's no doubt in my mind that you will see many more people turning pro early when they're probably not ready. And I think it's going to hurt the game. It's going to hurt college tennis just from that perspective. But that being said, I don't think that's a reasonable argument to use against the ITA or the ITA in this case, just because their objective is not to create pros, which I completely understand. The bigger issue is these I think most of these college players they've worked their whole lives. They've spent countless hours on the court, dedicating their lives to the sport, sacrificing things to play. Many people their ultimate aspiration was to become a college tennis player, and there's no greater experience than the college tennis experience. And I think that, you know, with these changes, this takes away from that experience and is absolutely detrimental to the game. I mean, it's gonna absolutely ruin these programs. It's gonna ruin college tennis for what all these players have worked for in their lives, and you know, what we love about the game, the competition. And I think that's kind of the bigger issue that I'm at least pointing at towards my distaste for the changes.
Well, you know, what's so interesting to me and what keeps jumping out is these changes make college tennis look completely different than professional tennis and completely different from junior tennis. So,
yep.
Presuming that junior tennis is a pathway to college tennis, how does having a different format at the collegiate level feed into that mindset?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. There's no doubt. In my mind, I don't think there's much doubt in, you know, these other people's minds. You know, believe that this is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt big time. You know, I mean, it's very, very difficult to convince a kid who's been playing the regular format, been playing regular matches their whole lives, that this is an acceptable way to conduct, you know, tennis matches, to conduct competition, and you know, I mean, again, it just kind of goes back to this idea that, you know, I mean, these kids work their whole lives, and, you know, many get, you know, college scholarships, they get the opportunity to play college tennis, and, you know, and the changes are taking away from the integrity of the sport, and you know, that's something that as a tennis player that, you know, I think most of us cherish, you know, is you know, our appreciation for the effort and hard work and skill that it takes to, you know, and toughness to succeed at a sport like tennis. It's not like, you know, it's really is such a different sport than any of these other ones, even, you know, the revenue producing football and basketball, and it brings a different excitement. I mean, I know personally for me, you know, there was no greater level of excitement than that NCAA final, but I couldn't imagine how much more, you know, how different it would have been if it had been no ad, if it had been 5-all sets. You know, it's not, you don't have that same feeling of satisfaction. You know, there's no greater feeling than winning a tough match. There's no probably worse pain than losing a tough match. And, you know, that's something that tennis players love, to be honest. They love that. You know, that's why they keep coming back for more. And, you know, these changes really do not allow for the best man to win. And, you know, and in a sport like tennis where it's, you know, kind of man-on-man combat, or woman-on-woman combat, you know, that's what it's really about. And this definitely takes away and adds in this element of luck, or, you know, just who can kind of scrape through a little bit more, where it's not really necessary to to enact changes like this where the game is already quite successful, you know.
Right. And I mean, it's interesting with the going to no ad. There's a reason that the tennis scoring system has stayed intact for as long as it has. It's a very unique scoring system. It's very creative, and by eliminating the ad and, you know, deuce element to the scoring system, you really change the entire game. I mean, it's like you said, it's a luck factor a lot of times, and especially on the men's side where you guys don't play servelets. So if the server gets a lucky let that drops right over the net on that deuce point, I mean, how is that showcasing the better player that day? You know, it's really just all about luck. We have a caller. Sorry, we have a caller on the line. I'm going to just see what the question is. It's a call from 404-307. Are you there?
I'm here, Lisa.
Bill, is that you?
That's me.
Hey, Bill Callenberg.
I just wanted to thank you for having such an articulate, outstanding young man as Mitchell Frank on your show. It's been my privilege to watch him through juniors and at UVA, and he is a class act.
Well, I have Bill to thank for Mitchell being on the show at all, because Bill contacted me last week and said, you need to reach out to him and get him on to talk about this stuff. He is a great kid. So, Bill, thank you. And, Mitchell, you have a big fan in Bill Kallenberg. I hope you realize that.
Thanks, Bill. Always a pleasure.
Well, Bill, thanks for tuning in.
The feeling's mutual.
Do you have a question for us today, or did you just want to
several things. I was at University of Illinois last year when Mitchell was in a 3-all team match score, having match point against him. Mitchell, what would have happened to your match, hypothetically, if we were playing under the new rules?
Under the new rules, I mean, technically I would have lost because I would have lost 5-3. Yeah, I would have lost because even in the third set, I think there were only two deuce games, and one I broke him in, and then he broke me back. So on the first deuce point, I won, so I would have broken him technically. And
it would have taken all of the tension, the excitement, the emotion, the roller coaster that both teams and all of the fans were playing. It would have just taken that completely out of the whole spectrum.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I agree completely. I mean, it's just, it would have just been a completely different match, and, the emotions you go through in a match. I mean, just having those, I mean, Coach Chuck Creasy, who I worked with some, is one of the best college coaches in history at Clemson, is now back at the Citadel. He would always call them, battleground games, and they're do sad, and then that's a huge momentum switch one way or another. It really takes away that momentum. That's a huge part of the game. Winning, coming back from love 40 and breaking after a long deuce game. Gives you a ton of momentum. That's a huge part of it, and that definitely takes away if you change to this no-ad scoring.
And that, to me, those kind of situations create far more intensity and crowd excitement than playing a sudden death point at 3-all in a game.
Oh, absolutely. I agree completely. I mean, while the point may seem more valuable, and it may be deemed to try to create more excitement, I mean, there's not much excitement from a net cord, really. I mean, it's just a net cord. It's like, lucky break. It's not like, this guy had break point and guy came up with an unbelievable shot on the run, or, just something like that to save it, and then all of a sudden it's back a deuce, but you still have your opportunity. It becomes a war with this, deuce ad, whereas this, no ad, it's just kind of like, it's almost like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Someone hits hits an unbelievable serve, and and there's your opportunity to break right there, and and it's just gone. Whereas if the guy hits an unbelievable serve, the pressure actually shifts. He's ahead now, and now he's dealing with a different pressure than he would be if he was facing break point. And that's something that cannot be captured in a sudden death deuce point situation.
Okay, now let me ask you something else, if it's all right, Lisa.
Yeah, please.
I've been around the NCAA tournament since the 80s, and the last 4 or 5 years, to my recollection, the finals of the team tournament is not broadcast live anyway.
Right.
It is videotaped, edited down to an hour, and then shown at a later date. And so the whole argument of making it more TV-friendly, to me, has no merit. And if they want to draw crowds, all you have to look at the top 15 or 20 programs in the country. UVA versus Duke is probably the highlight of the ACC year.
Yep.
You don't have to use gimmicks to get people to show up at either place for that match. The same way you don't have to when UGA plays Florida or Tennessee. They are inbred rivalries, and there's 2,000 people there, and it's intense. Yep. Better tennis programs draw crowds because they have quality programs.
Yep.
And I know programs all over the country use iPod giveaways, large screen TV giveaways to the fraternity or sorority that brings the most people, or have crab boils or crawfish boils, all of the gimmicks to get students to come. But if a student comes that really doesn't have a heart or an understanding for tennis, they're going to leave at some point. Tennis,
right,
like you said earlier, is a very unique kind of sport. And tennis enthusiasts are going to support good programs.
Right.
And so, if they really want to draw a crowd, I'm going off the wall, let's get rid of the officials sitting in the chair and put hooter girls in. That'll draw a crowd.
Yeah.
The fraternities will show up. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but you could have a 3-ring circus out there, and people are going to come for the circus, not for tennis, which demeans the whole program and the integrity of the sport.
Well, one of the things that I keep hearing is the money aspect. But tennis has always been a non-revenue sport. There are many, many other non-revenue sports at the college level that are not messing with their integrity of their scoring system or their format. Why now? Why tennis? That's what I don't understand, and I can't really get anybody to give me an answer to that question. So, we've got a couple other people on the line. Bill, thanks so much for calling in, and thanks again for hooking me up with Mitchell, and I hope you'll stay on the line and chime in if anything else comes up. But let me take this next caller. It's from 386-503. Caller, are you there?
I am.
Hi, who's on the line? Hello?
Hi, my name's George. I'm sorry, I take you off speaker. My name's George.
Hey, George, did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I've got a question. It's for Mitchell. First of all, thanks for being here. You provide some great insight to the tennis fan base here. So the changes that are proposed, I understand those are NCAA changes. I have a two-part question. Do these changes apply to NAIA schools? And if they don't, do you think that will impact the growth of or the direction of which kids lean towards playing college tennis? In other words, will NAIA schools be the benefactors or the beneficiaries of these new rule changes or proposed rule changes?
That's a really interesting question, George. Let me just clarify real quick, and then I'll let Mitchell talk. These changes are only for NCAA Division I schools, only Division I. So, Mitchell, you jump in and address the other side.
Yeah. So I don't believe the NAIA is, has these rule changes, as Lisa just said. And I don't know how it will impact it. To be honest, that's pretty tough to say. I would still say that I think most people will just, to be honest, just turn pro if they're on, the top players. I think will just mostly just head the professional direction. That being said, again, the majority of people in college tennis are obviously not going on to be professionals or have professional careers in tennis. So I still believe that the majority will still go to the Division I schools. I still think that that will still be the top choice. But I think you're going to lose this giant pool of top players of quality that will overall drop the level of college tennis, and therefore I think that hurts the excitement too. I think that's it's the level of tennis is kind of proportional to the level of excitement in many cases. So I think that's a major factor that the ITA needs to consider. That being said, I do not think that these changes will ever make it to the NCAA tournament. I don't, just because I think there's too much opposition. But it is very scary to have play any tennis under this format. I don't know if that answers your question, but
George, you still with us?
I think time will answer the question. I hate the fact that people, in terms of turning pro, I just, my my sense is that, kids shouldn't turn pro. It just happens. I don't think you turn pro. I think it happens. So I hope that's not the option. I think these promising juniors should go to school. And I was just concerned that, not concerned, but I'm just more curious: will NAIA schools, will that be an option now because the rules are more in line with just the way the game is today? And I guess if I had one more question is, how do you think this will impact international players playing college tennis? Will this impact their decision to come play in the States? And then I'll shut up. Thanks.
Absolutely. I've talked to a couple. I talked to Blas Roller last week, and he couldn't believe these changes, and it's already tough enough to get a lot of international players to believe that college tennis is actually a viable pathway for the pros. With these rule changes, I think you're dropping the number of international players coming in, and usually they bring a pretty high level, so that's going to hurt the quality of college tennis. And as much as it's great to have Americans, it's very beneficial for from a quality standpoint to have those international players sprinkled in and be able to compete against them and get kind of some different perspectives. And I think that's definitely going to be hurt. They already don't necessarily respect college tennis to the level they probably should be. When people make the argument that college tennis is in a kind of down in the dumps, if you look at it from the number of professional college tennis players who are succeeding, it's pretty incredible. You have Ryan Williams, you have Steve Johnson, you have Bradley Clawn, you have Jarmir Jenkins, you have all these guys who are kind of tennis sanguine who have played college tennis and prospered under the system. And then you also have people who have gone on to do amazing things in their life using college tennis as a vehicle to get a great education, a great degree, and I think that everyone wants to play in a system that's fair. I understand the perspective that it does. If you do use these no-ad scores, it helps to even the playing field in the sense of luck becomes more a factor. There's no longer the better team, but I think that that's not what it should be about. That truly hurts the integrity, and I think people want to win by earning the win, not just be, given it. And, with all the work we put in, it's only fair.
Let's talk about the fitness aspect of tennis, and especially at the college level. This new format really does reduce the impact that a player's fitness has on the outcome of a match. And Mitchell, I know you can speak to the intense training that you guys do, not just on the court, but off the court, on the track, in the gym. And, how do you think these changes are going to impact the way that the training is set up for you guys to be successful?
Yeah, definitely, it definitely de-emphasizes this fitness aspect. And that's a part of tennis. That's a part of just being healthy. Having a healthy lifestyle, and I think that's something that I think everyone wants. For we want kind of our college players to be learn to live healthy lifestyles, and I think these changes definitely reduce the amount that players have to put into to succeed in college tennis. Given if you want to go on to the next level, there's still a lot of you're still gonna have to do a lot of fitness. There's still going to be demands that you have to do outside of what's demanded by the college game. But I think that definitely it's going to decrease the amount that people spend on fitness, and I think that's a part of tennis. That's just as much a part of tennis as the mental game or hitting the ball or shot selection, whatever it is. Fitness is just a part of tennis. It's intertwined with it, and that's something that we cannot allow the game to be compromised for. And I think that's something that we really have to make sure that the IT understands that it's not it's also about a healthy lifestyle, and this is part of it.
It's so interesting to me. I've mentioned on my website a bunch of times, and probably on the show too, that my dad played college tennis at Tulane, and when he was playing, they played 3 out of 5 sets. And, you know, nobody was messing with the scoring system then or trying to introduce no ad. They didn't even play tiebreakers back then. So, I mean, these matches would go on for hours and hours and hours. Now, do I think that's a great way to do it? No. And I think shortening the matches to 2 out of 3 sets makes more sense. But, you know, this latest round of format changes and scoring changes just, to me, changes the entire feel of the game, changes the entire flavor of the game, and I just get so frustrated every time I look at this list of what's coming. It makes me crazy. Mitchell, you're a junior this year. Is this going to impact your decision about whether to finish out your 4 years at UVA or just to devote yourself full time to the tour?
I mean, I haven't made that decision yet. You know, I'm taking it kind of semester by semester. But you know, and obviously we're fighting these changes hard, so we're really hoping that we make good progress and these do not actually get used. I mean, I know we've brainstormed with other players and, you know, coaches about, you know, what to do should we not be able to change this. And, you know, I mean, there are many very viable options that, you know, I mean, they can just take the ITA completely out of control. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the players really have, you know, I mean, the only way the ITA has power is if the players and the coaches give it power. So, you know, I know that there's been talk of forming another, you know, form basically our own governing body and kind of split off because you know, that's something that would, you know, allow us to kind of create the rules that we want and do what's best for, you know, the coaches and players. And that being said, also, I mean, I think it's important to note that as far as I know, at the convention where they decided this rule change, there was only one coach out of the top 20 there. And I mean, I just don't see how that is a fair way to make a decision like that. And, you know, and I think that you have to have those top voices to make a decision like that. I don't think that you can just make it with, I know that my coach, Brian Bowen, was down there, but he said no one else out of the top 20 was there. And, I mean, I think it's absolutely absurd to make a huge decision like this without having the input of all those top coaches.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I mean, as the rule said, you know, unless the coaches agree otherwise, you know, I think that, you know, there's going to be a huge push for, you know, both coaches to just not agree to do it, or even the players just to, I know that some people have talked to me about boycotting indoors, you know, having our own indoor tournament, you know, not going to indoors and kind of make a statement that, you know, that we're not going to play like this. That being said, you know, I mean, for me personally, I haven't made a, you know, decision on, you know, how this will impact things. We'll definitely have to see, but, you know, I think the changes are definitely hurt the development of everyone, and, you know, especially as a player, for me trying to, you know, take my game to the next level. So.
Sure. Well, talk a little bit about this Facebook group and the social media campaign you've launched and the support that you're getting that way and what you hope to accomplish with that.
Yeah, so I started, I sent a message out to Ray Sarmiento, Nathan Pasha, Peter Kobal, Marcos Giron, and we kind of all agreed that we need to fight these changes. And so much like Evan King and Bob Van Orvig did in the past, we started a Facebook group, and I think we're at about like 1,300 members in opposition to the changes. And we've gotten a very diverse and, you know, of support from different levels of D1 tennis, even some D2, D3, NAI, you know, JUCO players and coaches who have joined the group. And, you know, and we've also started, on Twitter, we're kind of trying to get the hashtag Save College Tennis going again. And we're definitely trying to raise awareness of, the dangers that these format changes, you know, can cause to the game of college tennis, and we're really just trying to fight and show that the IT that this is not in the best interest of the players, coaches, and no one really wants this, and them making a decision like this is just absolutely self-driven and to be honest, quite selfish. Obviously, there's a big thing about money and stuff, but at the end of the day, tennis is not a revenue-producing sport, and the people who are going to watch the match, the people who are interested in college tennis are going to watch the matches. Most of them are watching on the computers. I can't tell you how many people told me that they were watching the NCAA finals last year on their computer. So to be honest, viewership is, people are going to watch the big matches. It's not. It's really not a format change, because if the format was the issue, then I don't think this many people would watch the NCAA finals. I just really don't. And I think that they can definitely, they talk about these TV deals, but I don't see any TV deals. It's very tough to make a change without, saying, oh wow, we have this huge, TV contract that's, that we signed and we're going to have, but there's been no announcement of that. So I think that all of this was, it's just very, very disappointing that technically the governing body of college tennis would come up with these changes, and much like I think last August when they had the proposed change to the 10-point tiebreaker and that kind of got revoked. I think that we're going to fight this one hard, and I think that these changes will not stick. To be honest, I think that most people, baseball players are opposed to it. It's going to be very tough to get both sides to agree to play this format. And I just do not see. I just don't understand why they would, kind of carry out these changes to college tennis, much as you said earlier. When there are other sports that they could be picking on, so to speak.
Well, and what's interesting is I saw one analysis that pointed out that with these format changes, effectively they're going to reduce the overall match time by about 15 minutes total. So 15 minutes. So
yeah.
How does that make college tennis more marketable to a TV audience? 15 minutes really is going to make that much of a difference in the saleability of the game. And secondly, what I've heard is that a lot of these bigger universities and conferences have already established television networks. We know University of Texas has their Longhorn Network, and the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever it is this week, has its television network, but they haven't committed to airing tennis on those networks.
No.
As far as
I know when we played University of Texas last year, where our match was aired on the Longhorn Network, and right there goes to show you that it's a big match. They're playing us. They have no problems airing that. It just there was no issue. It was it's that can kind of go back to speak about it's kind of much like Bill said, it's the product. It's not it's not that college tennis is, as much as I hate to say, you're just not going to get people watching some of these small programs play each other. Obviously they have great players, and I have a lot of respect for them, but it's once you get to these top 20, top 30 teams, people are gonna watch because the quality's, I guess, better, and they have a product that they're there, and I think that Virginia is a great example because we had the worst program in the ACC in 2001, the worst program. They're about to cut tennis, and we were, now we're obviously last year we were NCAA champions, and the fan base, exploded. It's about the product. It's not about tennis. This is not an issue of tennis as a whole. It's about the program, and I'm pretty sure that Ohio State, USC, UCLA, Texas A&M, all those. I really don't think that they have a problem getting fans out. I really don't. You know, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, the stadiums are not built to hold, 10,000 people. You know, right. But I mean, when we play Texas, I mean, wherever we go, we generally bring a huge crowd. Because why? Because it's. I mean, you're playing one of the better programs. You're playing a big program. It's a big match for these schools. I mean, that's how it works, and I mean, and that's something that I think the idea is completely overlooking. If I mean, there's only 20 teams that can be top 20, so it's not. I think it's again, it's just an issue of the product. It's not if these other programs want to increase the fan base and whatever, I guess, boosters or revenue they're bringing in, to benefit the program, you just have to have a better product. You got to be honest. I mean, I think if most of the coaches who are proponents of this are not looking in the best interest of tennis. They're just looking for a cheap way to kind of increase their their revenue and their success without just putting in the work. I mean, it's very simple. It's just like tennis. You just work. It's very simple. It's not they're coming up with this complicated formula or magic pill that's not there. It's going to be a disaster. It's not going to achieve anything that they hope that it does, in my opinion. So that's my personal philosophy.
I love it. Well, have you gotten any sort of feedback or response from ITA personally?
I've not gotten anything personally from ITA. I mean, I think, I know we're still trying to increase the, the support or outreach and try to get as many people as possible because, to take on a change like this, you have to, get numbers. And yeah, so I mean, we're looking to expand our group. If anyone's out there who wants to join our Facebook page, we'd really appreciate it. And I mean, we're just really trying to first get a lot of support, and then we'll kind of start a more direct approach to the ITA as the season kind of gets closer. But definitely, from what I've heard of, all the players, there's a huge pushback of the majority of the players. I think probably about 99% of the players do not want these changes. So I think it shows through. I mean, when you have 1,300, pretty much all of them are college tennis players. I mean, it's pretty tough to argue with that number.
Right. So. Right. Well, who is y'all's first team opponent this year?
I think we start off the IT kickoff weekend versus Elon, I believe.
Okay, and so do you know, have you been in touch with any of the Elon players to find out, are you guys going to play under this new format change, or are y'all going to say, no way, we're not doing it? And I've not talked to any. We're trying to reverse the changes as a whole right now, but as we get closer to that date, I'll probably start to contact some of them and ask them, hopefully make sure that they're willing to play under the normal format, and I think it'll be beneficial for everyone to play in that way. I don't think that this format change benefits anyone, whether you want to be a professional, whether you want to just play college tennis and enjoy your time. I think that it takes away from the competitive spirit that is college tennis, and I think that's something that we have the right to stand against. Sure. What's Coach Bolin saying? I mean, has he come out publicly in support of your efforts, or I'm always curious because I think
Coach Bolin is an avid supporter of the full match format. We actually at UVA we complete every single match. We don't stop. We don't really play 10-point. The only time we'll play a 10-point breaker is if the other school, cause I guess both of them have to agree if the match is decided to play one way to play a third set or not. But Bolin always talks about playing out matches. He has no problem with that. So he's pretty disappointed that some of these coaches and the ITA and some of the players support this change, and I think that he's definitely pushing hard against the change, and I have a lot of confidence in him being able to have an influence in the college scene. Obviously, he's one of the most successful coaches in probably college tennis history, and I think that what he when he talks, people listen, and hopefully he can continue to get people to support the cause, and I think that'll be beneficial.
Sure. We have another caller on the line. Let me just see if they have a question. It's 847-529. Are you there? 847-529. Do you have a question? All right. They must just be listening. That's fine. All right. Let's keep going, Mitchell. I feel like we're saying the same thing over and over again, and I'm really hoping that ITA is listening, and if they're not, no worries, because I will be emailing them the podcast of today's show to make sure it's in their hands. But I still am at a complete and total loss to understand why the ITA feels that making these changes is going to turn things around in terms of revenue producing by tennis at the college level. We all know that tennis in this country has been on a slight decline despite the numbers that the Tennis Industry Association tells us, but part of the growth that TIA is showing is due to free memberships being given out for 10 and under tennis. So, let's all be clear about that number. To me, college tennis has got to be preserved as the holy grail for junior tennis. And for parents to want to introduce their kids to tennis at a young age and to invest the time and the money, let's face it, a lot of money that it takes to get your kids all the way through the junior system, doesn't college tennis have to be there at the end as a goal for them? And Mitchell, maybe you can talk a little bit about your experiences coming up through the juniors and any exposure maybe that you had to college tennis as a young player and the influence that had over you.
Yeah, it's actually funny to bring that. I went to my first college tennis match. I went to a UVA match, and they were playing Minnesota. I think this was back in maybe 2004. I just kind of started playing tournaments. I was maybe like 11, and I remember watching UVA play Minnesota and Doug Stewart playing, and I was watching him, and I think at the time he was like 2 or 3 player in the country, and I was just completely in awe of him, and I loved watching him, and so I went down like a year later, and I saw actually Somdev and him playing, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. His atmosphere is really cool. My coach back home knew Brian a little bit, so I thought that was the coolest thing, and I remember oh man, it'd be so cool to play college tennis someday, and I'd love to I remember for a week I couldn't stop talking about Doug Stewart. I was like, man, this guy's amazing. Oh man, it was so cool to watch him play. Just the whole thing, and I think that as you said, it has to be there. There has to be an end goal and an end kind of reward. When you work through the juniors, there's you play. You're playing a long time. You're playing a lot of tournaments. You're traveling a lot, and kind of for a lot of people, this reward is college tennis, and I think that's something that they deserve the right to be able to play in a system where they get to compete and they get to enjoy what they have been able, the skills they've been able to develop over their life. And I think that's that was something for me. I never imagined. I remember thinking after that, I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool if I got a scholarship to college. If I got the opportunity to play. These matches are so intense. Everything seemed so great to me, and that was under the normal format. And, I had no problem sitting there for, the match is over in probably about 2 hours, 45 minutes. When you think about it, you're only really, the matches are only going, 4 hours when it's super, super close, and in that case, the match is probably super exciting. So the matches that aren't as exciting are done in 2.5 hours. So I don't think that the time is really much an issue in that sense. It's saving, as you said, like maybe 15 minutes. It's saving a couple minutes here and there, but that's not going to be the difference between people watching and not. At the end of the day, it's going to be, they're gonna watch it if they enjoy the game, if they know someone, if they appreciate the sport, just stuff like that. That's more going to be what's going to garner their attention.
Right, absolutely. All right, now I think our caller may have a question for us. 847-529, you have a question for us? Caller 847.
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hey, Lisa. Hey, Mitchell. This is Rob Gurdon from Purdue University.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, no, I got to say, Mitchell, I appreciate the passion. I think a lot of tennis people, appreciate the passion, and I know, one of my former players, Evan King and Bob Van Overbeek, challenged this, format change, and all the power to you guys.
Thank you.
One thing I will say, I'm new to college tennis. I just got into college tennis this past August, and one of the reasons why I got in is because after working with some ATP players and traveling around on the ITF tour, I see a lot of players that just plain aren't ready. They're not physically ready, emotionally ready, just mature enough, to handle the rigors of the tour. And I think that, you were one of those players that I think made a wise choice, as did Evan King. I remember seeing you guys play actually at Carson way back.
Yeah.
When you just you were just so solid. Yeah, that's another story. But you guys basically, I think you weren't ready to play pros. It's a grind. And also the value of an education, is enticing. So I think the key is, for me, I got into college coaching because I think it's a transition zone for players that maybe have the ability or the desire to, take it to the next level, but also just weren't ready. And I think the key is there's a couple of things that I think are important, about this topic, is I think the level of college coaching needs to improve in order for it to be a viable option. So they're actually developing. So the format is one thing, and I agree with you, that, apples to apples is the best situation. I think the dilemma comes down to the money, and I think from what I understand, I'm not in these discussions. I didn't go to the ITA convention this year. I was fortunate to be involved at the Big Ten coaches meeting because I'm actually the assistant at Purdue, and Laura Glitz couldn't make it, so I took her place, and I was kind of involved in some discussions there. But, I think that everybody's concerned, not anybody in that discussion, but I think they're concerned about, the financial side, and how much it costs to run a team, especially a high-level team, the budgets that are involved, paying the head coach, paying the assistant coach, having the travel budget. We're talking about big bucks, along with, the scholarships, at least at Purdue, are approximately $42,000 a year. So you're giving away, all this money. And not only that, but all the products and all the things, the stringings and food on the road and hotels. There's a big expense, much bigger than maybe what I even thought before I got into college coaching. And so I think the concern is that, these expenses, if there's ways to save on the expenses, they might actually choose to get rid of certain programs at maybe some of the lower level schools. The ones that aren't the desirable schools. And I think that that's the dilemma from some of the coaches that I heard. So they're more open maybe to adjust the format in that sense. Now, the reasoning behind the format, I'm not real sure. I think there's ways to do it that maybe you don't necessarily cut into, how you're training to become a player or how you learn how to play. I think that, I don't know your thoughts on, I'd like to know both of your thoughts maybe on the financial side.
Rob, let me ask you, so are you saying that these format changes people think that's going to reduce the expense of running a team?
I think they're concerned. To be honest, I'm not sure the logic behind the format changes, other than what's been said already. But I would say that some coaches are concerned with, having the budget to even offer tennis as a sport. Obviously some of the schools that have dropped men's tennis over the past, 10 to 15 years, what was the reasoning behind that? My guess is that it's just a lot of money.
Sure. But
so I think that's the concern is if go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm so confused because I keep hearing that it's a budget issue, but if the reality is that these format changes shorten a match by 15 minutes, how does that really affect the bottom line?
That's a good question.
Nobody seems to be able to answer it.
No, I don't have the answer. I just wanted to call in personally because I'm in support of the idea, that Mitchell's, championing. And I guess that like I said, I'm new to college coaching because and I got in for the right reasons, I feel, and so I definitely am in support of whatever makes college tennis and a great experience for student athletes, somewhere that the school is proud to have a tennis team and strive to be as good as they can, by putting money into it. I don't know if the fans are an issue. I know that David Roditi, a good friend of mine over at TCU, is breaking all kinds of records with attendance. And if that's the goal, then we should maybe copy some of the things that he's doing.
Amen.
Because he's been doing it under the current format. So,
Amen.
So to be honest with you, I don't understand it completely, but I'm learning more. And like I said, I think I made a comment on Facebook on my own page, a couple weeks ago, just concerning that college tennis. As an example, players that have played college tennis. And I played at a Division II school. I started tennis at 15 years old. I taught myself how to play. I never took a private lesson. I wasn't good enough probably to play D1 when I was a senior. And I never went through the junior recruiting process, to be honest. I got into tennis late. I fell in love, and I still love it. And I'm 43 years old. And I want to become the best that I can be. And I want to inspire players to be the best that they can be. And so for me, I had great experience in college tennis and lifelong friends, memories that'll last forever. I want to have those same experiences for other players in the future. And I think that whatever it takes to make that happen, I think is the most important thing. And the secondary piece is obviously, I wanted to, have a transition time for players that weren't ready. So, whatever is the best way to do and accomplish those things, in my opinion, is the way that, those are the things that I want to support.
Awesome. Let me interrupt 1 second. I just want to throw out to the listeners, we have about another minute and a half in the air, and then we will go into recording mode for the podcast. So if we go over, which I'm anticipating we may go over a little bit, please be sure to tune into the podcast. It'll be online later this afternoon. Okay, so Coach Rob, I want to just throw out to my listeners, I had the opportunity to interview you at the U.S. Open this year, and for those of you out there who have daughters who are aspiring to play college tennis, please have them take a look at Purdue and at Coach Rob Gurdon, because his philosophy on coaching at the college level, to me, is the ideal philosophy, which he's stated here already, to produce student athletes and to help these athletes develop to their utmost potential to either go on to the pro tour or to just get as good as they can, in college. And so, Coach, thanks for calling in. I really appreciate that.
Well, thanks, Lisa. No, like I said, I'm in love with the game of tennis. I watch tennis in my free time. I follow it online. I talk tennis all day long if I could. And I think the key is that I would love to have, first of all, I would love to have players that feel that way, you know, and feel the same about the game of tennis, because I think it makes learning easier. And obviously, if you can develop a player or coach a player that, you know, is interested in learning and becoming the best that they can be, it's a pleasure. You know, it's just it feels easy. It makes my job easier. And so I think that you know, to have that passion and love is the most important thing, you know, in this discussion. So, you know, however that we can achieve that, I'm all for it.
Awesome.
So I don't have all the answers. I think that, you know, like I said, I love Mitchell's passion, and I appreciate it. And I think that he's coming from the right place. And there's a lot of good points, you know, and Mitchell's going to go on and have a successful career at the next level. And, you know, I wish him all the best. And you know, I think that one of the reasons why he has that passion, I think, is because of college tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mitchell, I mean, how do you respond to what Rob's saying here? Because, I mean, you obviously are under the tutelage of a coach that shares in Rob's passion for the game. I mean, Brian Boland is known for his love of the game of tennis. So you're a product of that. I mean, speak to that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks, Rob. Appreciate your thoughts. Appreciate the compliments. But I mean, yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I agree. I agree with what Rob has to say. For certainly, I think that, you know, it's definitely very important that we get, you know, these kids the opportunity to play. That being said, from the financial standpoint, much as Lisa said, like, I just don't understand how, you know, cutting off a little time affects. I mean, if you're playing in Dallas, you're already in Dallas. I mean, like, yeah. I just don't really understand how, like, you know, it's not like you're spending an extra night there because, like, the match is, you know, like, you know, because the match is, like, 3 hours. You know, it's just your flight's a little later. You know, but, I mean, I just think that, I mean, I understand the budgetary concerns, and it's tough to, you know, fund these teams. But, I mean, I think that I just don't see how the format changes is like core or, like, is, you know, related to that. It just doesn't seem to have any, like, logical implications to me. That's my initial thoughts. I mean, I know that obviously bringing in they hope to bring in revenue from TV. I just don't see that being. I mean, I just don't think that's gonna bring in. You know, I mean, people are gonna watch it whether, you know. I mean, as I said, like, you know, I know just a ton of people watch that NCAA final, and they, you know, watch, you know, whatever they, you know, they somehow found out about it, and that's like, you know, those people who wanted to know, those people, like, were interested, those people, you know, I mean, you're going to get those people regardless. Those are kind of like your base. There aren't too many people. I feel like that if you publicize that match, if that match is on ESPNU, maybe in the finals, you know, maybe you have a bigger base. But I mean, I think that was a pretty exciting. I mean, that might have been one of the more exciting sporting events of the year in any sport. You know, I mean, I think you could easily make the case that was. I mean, if you take away that, if you change that score, maybe that's not the case. But if that match, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I feel like that match, that NCAA finals, and yeah, it's one match, but you know, I mean, it's like the NCAA, you know, it's like the basketball championship game, it's the national championship game in football. It's you know, I mean, it's on the same, you know, level of, you know, I mean, you're playing for an NCAA championship, you know, one way or another, and I think that, I mean, that match, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, that match should somehow make it on ESPNU. It should make it somehow, you know, I mean, just some sort of show of that. Maybe you'll get, you know, more, and you don't have to do it in the format. You know, if you show the little highlights, I mean, that should somehow make it on there. You know, I feel like that if that happens, if something like that happens in baseball, that's making ESPN top 10, and we didn't even make top 10. So I mean, in my opinion, I mean, that's more. I mean, that's got to be more the fault of the idea for not actually publicizing it than it is about the actual, like, the tennis, you know, in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that, but
it's a marketing issue, and it's a conversation that's been had over and over and over again. And Rob mentioned David Roditi at TCU. David he does these like webinars for college coaches to share his methods for getting people in the stands at the PCU matches. I mean, these are free. He does this of his own volition. He doesn't charge for them. He's not getting paid for his time. And, you know, for coaches that are having trouble getting people in the stands at their matches, in my opinion, they're foolish if they aren't tuning into these webinars and learning from this guy who is a master at marketing his tennis program. There are coaches like that all over the country, and, you know, from the conversations that I've had with the various college coaches, it's a pretty intimate group of women and men. I mean, for the most part, all of them are buddies. They are in communication constantly throughout the year. I mean, they're talking recruiting, they're talking, you know, all kinds of issues. And I can't imagine that, you know, somebody like Brian Boland or somebody like Peter Smith or somebody like Billy Martin or somebody like Manny Diaz wouldn't be more than happy to have a phone conversation with a coach at a program that's struggling to get people in the stands and share what they're doing, what's the magic. And like you said, Mitchell, it's simply about spreading the word. It's PR, it's marketing. There are marketing programs at pretty much every university in the country. Tap into those students and give them a project to do. You know, give them a semester-long project to up the attendance at their school's college tennis matches. Hello, that's, you know, that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I think, you know what, one other thing that needs to be thought about, which Mitchell mentioned earlier, which I think is a good, viable option to cheaply broadcast college matches, would be just offer them as a streaming service on the athletic website. You know, I know a lot of schools have that. We currently don't have something like that at Purdue. We actually we do, but it's not on all 6 courts, so we're working on that as we are speaking. But I think that might be a effective way to get out, you know, kind of like what college matches are all about. Give some recruits, you know, an opportunity to see the team play and the energy that you feel at a college match, especially for their favorite team. It's a great recruiting tool. I think that it's a great way for parents, you know, it's particularly on other continents or, you know, across the country, to be able to watch their children play and to have players have their, you know, family and friends watch them play as well. You know, I think that that's something that some schools are doing a great job of. I think some of the, you know, other schools could possibly tap into that, and that might be a way, you know, to do some inexpensive marketing, and also just kind of give you an idea of the feeling and the energy that college tennis offers.
That's a great idea, Rob. Thank you. All right, guys, we have gone way over our 60 minutes, and I just appreciate so much the fact that y'all have been willing to stay on the line with me, and those of you listening that you've hung in with us. So thank you very much. Mitchell, if it's all right with you, I would love to have you back on the show later in the season, kind of maybe after this trial period goes through, and get some feedback from you on what actually happened at the schools and you know, what the sense is of things moving forward. Are you willing to do that for me? Please say yes.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to my listeners, have a very safe and happy New Year. Next week we have actually a former college student, Danielle Lau from USC, is going to be on talking about her experience with college tennis and her new book that she's just written. So I hope you'll tune in. We're going to continue this discussion. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you.